Welcome to Broken Kayfabe, the unofficial after show of Breaking Kayfabe with Baldwin and Barry. And if you're not a listener to Breaking Kayfabe with Baldwin and Barry, please go download it, go listen, support those guys, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. And also, I don't know how in the heck you would have found this show without actually being a member of the Facebook group. So if you're not a member, please go ahead and join the Facebook group as well. Not many rules, no politics, don't be an asshole, whatever. That's where we're all members and how we all started this thing. So thank you so much, Ariel Agbalog, for joining me once again, my wonderful co-host. What's up?
Nothing. My pleasure to be here once again. I'm just enjoying my Monday morning. Had the weekend off. It was a Wrestlemania weekend. I saw most of it, but it's a long show, and I saw most of it. It was pretty cool, but now I'm just relaxing before I go back to bed and work tonight.
Oh, good. Well, I'm not going to take up a whole lot of your time because I recorded yesterday with Chris Spiker, giving his review of night one of Wrestlemania. And so we that was what we'll be having today on the show. And then in the next couple of days, we'll have his discussion of night two of WrestleMania. But Ariel, why don't you give us just some real quick thoughts of what you thought of WrestleMania in general this year?
Okay, so in general this year, it felt more like a WrestleMania than it did in previous years. I still don't like all the celebrity matches that they have. It takes away from a lot of the other performers that are on there, like Finn Balor and Ricochet, two of their mid-card title holders, didn't have a WrestleMania match at all. They were on the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or whatever. I didn't even watch that part.
Now, see, that's really messed up, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like, damn, dude, I don't know. I guess for the ratings, the celebrity stuff, whatever, but yeah, it's really messed up. You already got guys there that are busting their ass day in and day out. I mean, you even have two of your mid-card champions there not even on the main card, and that's like, okay, whatever. But other than that, it was pretty enjoyable. It is what it is for, WWE, we all know it's more sports entertainment than just actual pro wrestling as it once was, and it is what it is. But I enjoyed it. It's still a really long show, two nights, and then you got I didn't even watch NXT either, Stand and Deliver. I'm trying to watch that probably later on in the week when I have time, but it's just too much wrestling going on.
What are some moments that you thought were just spectacular and that you absolutely loved?
For one, Stone Cold coming back, and I thought, my coworker and I were like, okay, he's just gonna come in and he's just gonna kick KO Kevin Owens in the gut, do a stunner, leave, because we didn't think he would be really physically able to go and do what he did over the weekend. I was a bit surprised, and it brought a lot of nostalgia back. My mom absolutely loved it. She was watching it with me, that part. I was catching the replay and everything, and I called my mom over. I'm like, Mom, look, Stone Cold is here. And she's like, really? I haven't seen him in a while. I'm like, yeah, he's been retired for 19 years. And she didn't believe me. She's like, 19 years? That went by so fast. I was like, yeah, my mom used to watch wrestling with me back in the Attitude Era. Attitude Era. And so she got a kick out of seeing Stone Cold again, and doing his promo against Kevin Owens and using curse words. She got a kick out of that. She was like, she remarked about how the fans were having fun, they were all cheering and everything, which, when you get Stone Cold getting like the biggest pop of the night, or one of the biggest pop compared to your superstars that are already there, it's kind of sad, really. But yeah, that was probably the highlight for me, was the Stone Cold and the what else was there? See, I'm trying to remember. Mainly the Stone Cold one, and then Vince McMahon showing up against Pat McAfee night 2. That was unexpected. It was kind of sad seeing also, but it was
Why is
fun.
that? Because he's an old man?
Well, that and there was no point in that unless, I mean, it was basically for fan service to get Stone Cold to come out and just do what they did 20 years ago. I mean, that stunner botch, if you want to call it, was kind of hard to watch, but yeah, as far as nostalgic purposes is concerned, that's pretty cool, but it really nowadays didn't really make sense to me that Vince came out and McAfee had that little match going on, but it was entertaining. That's all that matters, actually. I mean, being entertained.
Yeah, I mean, at least we're not spending $50 on it or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Whatever the pay-per-view rates are.
Yeah, and can you believe if they were charging $50 for 2 nights? I mean, it could probably be like $60 or $100. I mean, because like $50 was just for one night back in the day for WrestleMania or their pay-per-views in general. But
yeah, well, I
now,
think AEW's was $49.99 or whatever recently.
Wow. Yeah. I bought ROH's pay-per-view. I haven't seen that one yet. I only saw like the first two matches, so I have to finish that one up.
What did the crowd look like in the first two matches? Was it packed? Was it a big crowd, small crowd?
It was a smaller crowd. It was I think they were in Garland, Texas, and it's a smaller, more intimate venue. And I mean, for ROH coming back, that's pretty cool though. But it wasn't like too much pomp and circumstance. I mean, it's compared to like other shows or something. I mean, because it's ROH, it's operating on a smaller budget, I guess. I mean, for now, unless there's something else going on later on. But yeah, I still gotta watch that show. And there's a lot of wrestling going on. I really wanted to watch the New Japan Lone Star Showdown, but I'm still like, should I spend another how many dollars it is for another wrestling show? Hopefully they bring it out later on in a couple of weeks to New Japan World because I'm a subscriber. Maybe they might bring it out there, maybe not. But
that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence about ordering another wrestling pay-per-view that has already been finished.
Well, cool. So let's go ahead and go to my conversation with Chris Spiker about his thoughts on night one of WrestleMania. Today, I've got Chris Spiker on the phone. Chris, I've seen that you have been watching some WWE this weekend, so I'm hoping you can fill us all up on the happenings and give us your opinion of what you saw.
Well, first off, Frankie, thanks for having me back on. It's always nice to hear from you and be on the show here and everything. So the first night of WrestleMania was last night. Thank God they split it up into a 2-night agenda. Sitting there for 8 hours is not, for any wrestling show, hell, probably any event period, is quite the task.
Did you watch the NXT the previous night?
Well, NXT was actually on yesterday during the day. So okay. It's been like a whirlwind. You had the Hall of Fame Friday night, which was cool for the Undertaker and the Steiners and everything. So then they did the NXT show yesterday, and which was kind of different. It's a good way to start the day, though. There was actually some really good, and I know I've been critical of the current NXT product when we've talked, but there was actually some very good stuff yesterday afternoon. I'm surprised at some of the results, and not really surprised with some of the other. But there's some of these guys are starting to come in their own, and it shows. Some of the personalities are developing their in-ring styles. And
yeah, I think it's always tough when there's quite a bit of turnover, and it appeared to me that there was a lot of turnover all at once. Just like any business, when you have a large majority or a good chunk of the core staff that leaves, it's hard to replace them and get into a different groove.
Exactly. And I mean, some of these guys, they're switching to a lot of their guys who've come up through their system, working their style, people who they can mold without the knowledge beforehand of who these people were. The last one who I can really think of off the top of my head was Tommaso Ciampa. and he apparently finished up with NXT yesterday. So
well, is he going to main roster or is he done?
It's hard to tell. He has said he always wanted to be in NXT, so I'm hoping they throw him a lot of money if he does go to the main roster, because, he essentially was Mr. NXT. Say what you about everybody else, but Ciampa's always been there. He's always been in the thick of things. He's always put on some really good matches. Always been a steady character. So, if he could go for the coach role, that would be really cool. Like, if he could get like a coaching gig there to kind of steer these young guys correctly. But if he's done, then he went out on a good note. And everyone's going to remember. Triple H coming out, putting him over at the end there was pretty nice. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only clip that I saw from the NXT show.
That and the main event was pretty surprising, because I'm sure that Rick Steiner's kid, Ron Breakker, which is like the stupidest name. I still can't get over how stupid that name is.
It really is dumb to not play on who his daddy is. Yeah, and his uncle. You can't forget Scotty.
Exactly. The fact that he lost, spoiler, if they're pushing him to the main roster, I don't think he's ready. I want to be proven wrong, because I think he's going to be a great talent. If he talks like his dad, if he talks like his uncle, but wrestles like his dad, he'll be just fine.
That's really an interesting observation from you.
Scott in his later years, Big Papa Pump was a great character. He wasn't the wrestler that earlier Scott was. But Rick was always tearing somebody up, man. He would rip some people's heads off of those clotheslines.
Agree, 100%.
One of the greatest tag teams ever. As I said, I'd probably put him in my top 5, somewhere in my top 5, depends on what day you talk to me. But, but I hope they strap the rocket to his back, but they do it right. And they have a history of not doing it right. So, it was NXT. They're developing, and it shows, and I think they're doing a lot of things in the right direction. So I'm really kind of curious to see how it develops from here. So, hopefully they continue to do the right thing. So.
Any other notable things that happened on the NXT takeaway?
I enjoyed the opening ladder match, because you had a variety of different personalities, and this one felt. They always do scramble ladder matches, but this one felt more fun, and there were different reasons why each of these guys could win. There was a bump by Grayson Waller that I remember, because I damn thought he broke his arm. He jumped off a ladder and he missed, and he totally just bounced off the ladder. You saw his arm bend. I'm like, did he just break his fucking arm? Yeah, but it looked. He took it like a champ, though. That was like his spot to get him out of the match. But like, holy shit! It's like, did he actually just break his entire arm? Because that's what it looked like. So, and then, again, that was one of those things they did right. There was a lot of good flow to it, and a lot of entertaining spots, and they're working the kinks out, and I hope it stays progressing towards the positive.
Did Trevor Lee work at all?
Yes, actually, he was actually in the opening ladder match. Cameron Grimes actually won the opening ladder match. Which is funny, you call him Trevor Lee, because that's always what I think of him as. He's been Cameron Grimes for a while. He's actually from down here around this area, I do believe.
Yeah, I think he's around the Cameron area, right?
Yeah, it was like him and Cedric Alexander and Andrew Everett were all around the area here. And it's funny, we're not far. We're Dr. Spiker and I live. We're not far from Cameron, which is where the Hardy Boys are from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a kind of drive through there sometimes. Like, I wonder if Matt and Jeff come back and visit. You just see Matt Hardy walking around little yard and Camden going delete.
Yeah, I think they both have houses still there.
Yeah, it'd just be cool to just kind of wander around and just randomly see some of these guys. Yeah, just randomly see these guys just walking around somewhere in North Carolina. So,
Anything that you noticed that was really cool from the Hall of Fame? I've watched zero of it.
the Hall of Fame was great. The Shad Gaspard speech was really, really emotional.
Who gave that?
Yeah. His tag team partner and his, I believe it was his tag team partner who gave it, and it was just it was really hard because, and here's the thing, and I'm sure this has been talked about, and I'm sure Breaking Kayfabe will cover it, is that you have the Dana Warrior, the Ultimate Warrior, whatever the hell it's called, but every recipient of it has actually been a good human being, unlike the Ultimate Warrior. You know, you call it the Warrior Award, but these people have gone far and beyond. You think, you know, I don't know if Jim Hellwig would have ever done what Shad Gaspard did. So,
Wow.
I'd like to see somebody argue that with me. You know, all the other recipients of it throughout the years have done something memorable, or done, or proven that they're good human beings. And the more that comes out over Jim Hellwig over the years, it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think he had some mental issues. I mean, and maybe some assholery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly. Yeah. General assholery and tomfoolery.
Yeah.
The Dark Side of the Ring and the A&E specials didn't do him any favors a couple years ago. So, but the Undertaker's speech, it's about what I expected. I mean, you had Vince McMahon's corpse introducing him, and Taker's speech, and there's and it was about what I expected. There are a few people he didn't talk about, but you only had so much time. When you're a character, when you're the ultimate character, when you're the character in wrestling history for 30 years, you got a lot to cover.
Well, I think also the Undertaker is the last of his kind. When you look at the gimmicks, right? He was an Undertaker.
Yeah.
He was the cartoony gimmick, but he made it through all this time of from 90, I guess, all the way up until whatever 28 years or whatever he was in the ring. His character endured longer than look at the others who are those cartoony occupational gimmicks of Duke the Dumpster Droshi, the dentist, the plumber, the repo man, all of these gimmicks that were based upon occupations, his lasted. He had the different incarnations and was a phenomenal worker as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's like you said, he survived it, but he kept evolving, and people believed in that. And I mean, have you ever seen his entrance live? Did you ever get the chance to see the Undertaker's entrance live?
I don't recall it, but yeah, I had to have, because I was at SummerSlam '98.
Okay,
but this was it was the one in New York City, but it was but maybe that was Ministry of Darkness time. I don't know. I don't, and that was Madison Square Garden, where they all come out of the side little area there. Yeah. I don't recall it, but I seeing it on the TV and the lights and the atmosphere and him doing the walk, I mean, those early years would have been amazing. I wasn't,
I mean, that's what I remember the most about seeing him in person, was always the entrance. The lights would go out, the fog would roll out, and all of a sudden here he comes, and it's that slow, methodical walk as it's, as the music's playing. It's like, oh my God, he's coming out and he's going to beat somebody's ass.
I did see a news post where it was like the daughter of a Hall of Famer was shocked or upset or something that he didn't mention her dad. Do you know who that was? I can only think. Go ahead.
I can tell you exactly who it was, and I can probably tell you why he didn't. It was the beautiful Noelle Foley, and it was because he didn't mention Mick and their history, because obviously one of the things Undertaker's most talked about, and Mick Foley has talked about, is King of the Ring 98 when he threw Mick off the top of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will tell you, I think why is because A, it goes back to you don't have enough time to mention everyone, and B, he might be like Mick and be tired of talking about it. I mean, when I think I might have told this story the last time when we were talking, but when we met Mick Foley, he's like, man, he goes, everybody's always asking me what it was like to get thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell, but we weren't talking about Bruce Springsteen. He was so happy.
Right. Yep.
But also Foley has been critical of the WWE and hasn't been like a persona for them for quite a while. Everybody else who he mentioned for the most part has been around, and all the people you expected to mention, Kane, Paul Bearer, his legendary matches with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, those type of things, the Shawn Michaels matches. I think I heard the story and that when they first started, they didn't get along. They were two entirely different people, but you know what? They made some memories together. My all-time favorite wrestling match is the two of them together.
Which one?
And that would be WrestleMania 25.
Okay.
Which is one of the first, when Dr. Spiker and I first started seeing each other, I said, I have to show you my favorite wrestling match ever. And I remember the spot that always gets me, and I don't care how many times I see the match, I'm still incredulous by it, is when Michaels goes for the top rope moonsault, Undertaker catches him and tombstones him. And that should have been the finish. But it was one of the greatest 2.9999 repeating in wrestling history. And Taker's face sells it because he thought it was over too. Like the look of disbelief in his face. I remember, I still pop every time I see that. It was two masters of their craft, and it still remains to be the only time I truly believe the Undertaker might have lost at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was because Shawn Michaels was putting on legendary matches year in, year out. He was top of his game post his comeback, and hopefully he was kind of past his huge douchebag stage, as my good friend Barry Rose would say. But to me, that match forever sticks out because they were two legends at the very top of their game on the biggest stage of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And that will forever stick out in my mind. And Christine's like, wow. And I remember showing it to Dr. Spike. She's like, wow. She goes, that was incredible. And I said, yes. I said that. I go, and it doesn't get old. And to me, that is a sign of a great wrestling, truly great wrestling matches when you still love everything about it. And you've seen it how many times.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and the thing that struck me most about The Undertaker is, A, it's weird to hear him talk like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
That is weird to me, and I don't know why. But then at the very end, he puts on the coat, he puts on the hat, and the crowd starts chanting for one more match. And he had been talking as Mark Calloway the entire time, and he puts down his head and he gets in the Undertaker voice. He goes, "Never say never." I'm like, and my heart kind of raced a little bit there. I'm like, okay. So you're telling me there's a chance. But as we move on the WrestleMania conversation, I want to, because I kind of came back around last night while watching the show. But we'll get to that. So.
All right. So that's the Hall of Fame. So night one, what were some highlights?
So night one. I mean, so admittedly, I went into night one saying, okay, I want to be surprised and impressed because there was only two things on night one I was really looking forward to. And that was Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair and the Kevin Owens, Steve Austin confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
It started off like real slow. I mean, the first three matches were just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's not really anybody's fault, especially the opening. I get the feeling the opener, which I don't know, how much do you know about? Did you watch it at all? Do you know? I don't want to be, telling you something you already know.
No, I don't watch. I haven't watched WWE in forever, and I mean, I might watch clips, that pop up on the YouTube, but that's it.
Gotcha. So the opening, so the opening match was supposed to be, it was the Usos versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. for the tag team titles. And it went like 7 minutes, and the ending was really rushed because there was a spot where Boogs, who's got like a strongman gimmick, went and supposed to jump up, and he jumped up, and his knee buckled, and all of a sudden everybody's scrambling, and it's almost like, oh shit, you know. It's almost like a holy shit moment. Okay, here we got to rush to the finish, and that's pretty much what it felt like. Like they had to run to the finish like real quick after that happened. And so that was kind of a downer. It's like, oh wow, it's like, I mean, and stuff like that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, it just kind of stinks because you want to start off WrestleMania like really hot. You know, you want to start off your biggest, you know, you showcase to the Immortals, the biggest show of your year, the one that's supposed to be the show. You want to start off like really hot, and through nobody's fault, I think that kind of downed it a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. But moving on past that, you had Drew McIntyre, which was, you know, serviceable, and you know, it's just the first matches kind of seemed like filler. Then you get to the Becky Lynch Bianca Belair match. And this match right here, I remember last year, the good doctor and I sitting here watching Bianca wrestle Sasha Banks. And like, holy shit, this made Bianca a star. Now, I don't know if this is long-term storytelling at its finest or they just kind of lucked into it. But then the storyline went, Bianca had a good title reign. Bianca gets to SummerSlam. Becky Lynch comes in as a surprise opponent, turns heel, beats Bianca in like 5 seconds.
Wow.
Completely crushes everything, you know, crushes everybody's hopes, you know, everything like that. It was very, very disheartening. And I remember sitting there going, damn, that sucked. I said, but, you know, it's always nice to see Becky. It's always nice to look at Becky Lynch, too. But that's another story.
Yeah.
But is this going to lead to a storyline? Or are we going to get the redemption angle going on? And I said, I hope to God that was it, because Bianca was having great matches. You know, she was over. She was very good at what she does. So you have Becky, you know, do the thing. Then you have Bianca, you know, and they end up coming back around to WrestleMania this year. And their match was so good. It was so good. Two really good, you know, women's wrestlers doing what they do best. And honestly, it could have gone either way, and, you know, it had a hot finish. So, you know, life was good, and I feel it ended the way it should have. So
yeah, you know, one thing I like about Bianca Belair, I mean, one, she's got personality. When we saw her down in NXT in Largo, she was very personable and smiley and happy and good with the kids. You know, even though she was sort of playing the sassy heel.
Oh yeah.
But also the girl's a legitimate athlete. The woman's a legitimate athlete. Like, she was at University of Tennessee. You know, track and whatever.
Yeah.
But she is legit, and you can tell that she puts time into not just being toned and fit, and she's actually got muscles and is athletic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You may appreciate this. She's a University of Tennessee girl, but one of the Texas marching bands played her in last night. They played her entrance for her last night.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty cool entrance, I must say. It was pretty, you know.
Yeah, the entrances are one of my favorite parts always about the WrestleManias.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you know, I'm not going to sit for 6 hours and to watch the entrances. I'll catch them on the recaps.
Exactly. And I mean, you have elaborate entrances, which are cool. I mean, that's the staple of any good, you know, sporting event or concert, depending who you see in concert. You know, my going off topic here a little bit, my in-laws just saw Alice Cooper, and they said his was a lot of theatricals, or, you know, did like a 2.5 hour show. They said a lot of it was theatrical stuff fitting into the music. So I mean, you get that, it's part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if I'm sitting there, as you said, if you're sitting there for 6-7 hours in a stadium, you don't want to sit through 90 minutes of video packages and, you know, 6 hours, you know, 2 hours of entrances to get to these matches.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the satisfaction of sitting home. We've always talked about going to WrestleMania, but she goes, isn't it just nicer when we can sit here at home and drink and, you know, sit here, drink and make fun of it the whole way through and, you know, enjoy it for ourselves? I said, yeah, actually, there is something to this. You know, we've talked about it every year since we've been together. And now it's just kind of like, that bug has kind of passed,
Yeah, you don't have to rush to the bathroom, wait in a line, worry about what you're missing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but, so then there was that. And then the Cody Rhodes match. I wish it would have been somebody else. Cody showed that he hasn't changed since his AEW days. I wonder what happened, because he was saying, "Oh, I'll never go back." I'm very happy in AEW, and here he is. Is he kind of like his dad? Was he, being kind of hypocritical? Was, there's, I don't think we'll ever really know what happened. But
there's a story, isn't there?
Oh, I'm sure there's a story somewhere that apparently, and depending who you talk to, Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes both signed non-disclosure agreements that they would never talk about it publicly.
Oh, really?
That's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm wondering, in Cody, in the true Rhodes fashion, they said, "No, we're not going to play ball with you." And Cody goes, "Okay, fine, I'm leaving." Or Cody did it and did all this to be spiteful towards Vince. Decided, okay, I'm ready to go back. I don't think we're ever going to know.
I'm sure that Cody did a lot behind the scenes in AEW, but for me, it always just felt like, and he had great matches. I did watch the latter match, I think it was, with him and Sammy Guevara.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Right? I mean, it's a phenomenal match, but I just felt like he was in the spotlight because his EVP, and I didn't, and I honestly, I also think that Brandy hurt him and hurt his credibility. So when I watched his entrance last night, I was like, man, I'm so glad that there is no Brandy, that this is just Cody.
Brandy's okay for looks, but no, it's just, she just doesn't do it for me anywhere else. And you know what? Good on him if this is what he's going to do. I'm curious to see what angle they're going to run with him, though, for him being back, or, the story behind it. I'm very curious to see, how they twist it. It could be interesting. So, the match was fine. I thought it kind of ran a little too long, but, it's what it is. It's WrestleMania, whatever. So then after that, I do believe, memory serves me right, because I think I actually dozed off during Ronda and Charlotte, though I'm not going to lie. Because that was a match that wasn't going to do anything for me going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I'm like, damn, this is starting to feel like it's kind of running long. I kind of dozed off a little bit because, and I think I've stated my opinion on Charlotte Flair. I think she's okay.
Yeah.
I think she's just okay, but I think the fact that her name is strapped to her, I want to see her if her name wasn't Flair. Would she be as big of a deal? And I've gotten into arguments about this with people, because your name is equated with one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's tarnishing his legacy as we speak all the time, but
gosh, isn't he?
It's sad, dude. Ric Flair was one of my favorite wrestlers as a kid. I always have a soft spot for him, but it's hard to listen to him talk anymore. And he'll be dead in the next 5 years at this rate. I'd be shocked if he's not.
I won't get into a whole lot on Ric Flair, but I will say that there was another podcast where this person says that they okay. So here's how I'll say it. So someone said that they had talked to Flair and said, "Hey, look, you really should tone down your party." And this is when Reed was alive, because they knew that Reed had issues, right? Substance abuse issues. And they're like, "Hey, look, you can't party in front of a kid that has substance abuse problems." Right? Like Rick cannot go out and be Ric Flair and do the drinking and the whatever, in front of his kid who is trying to stay sober.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was really telling to me, I know that, Flair's got his reputation of the partying and the drinking. I've seen the TikToks of him and in the hotel bar there, recently. But, for him to be sort of short-sighted and not tone things down when his own kid is struggling. I mean, it kind of got to me a little bit. And I don't think I don't think this person will lie and say they didn't say that, but but they said it on their own podcast that they had said that to Rick. You can't be doing this. And sadly, we all know how it ended up with Reed.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of Ric Flair, and some other things that he's done and that he said and his whatever. And actually, I thought the other day that I don't know that Ric Flair was as good as we thought that he was. It was Ric Flair had a persona and was able to have that match, which was important for the NWA Traveling Champion at the time, which made a star, made that person look good without losing. But I just don't think that Ric Flair is a greatest of all time. I don't think he was the greatest wrestler of all time.
I think so. Work rate wise, I mean, at that time, phenomenal. I don't think you could get very few better than his main time period. Now, I don't have the hindsight of some people watching him before, obviously through the network, through old Mid-Atlantic, or people that saw him wrestle before that. And then all of a sudden, when he became the Nature Boy and became the NWA champ, people are like, oh, that's when he started to go downhill. I don't have that perspective. I remember being a kid and watching him and the Horsemen. And, him and Sting having their feud, him and Luger, him and Wyndham having some burners, and.
But Ric Flair this is just my opinion, and I could be wrong. I could be a jackass. I have been many times before. But I think that I think that his work was good. I don't think his work was the best. I think what he was the best at was when he came in with the suits, he came in with the nice robes, when he came in with the I'm better than you, I have on all this expensive stuff. You cannot live like me. I think that is what did it. I think Brett by far was a better wrestler than Ric Flair. And sure, Brett did some of the same stuff or, had the same things in his matches, but Brett told stories. I don't see that with Ric Flair in the matches of telling the stories as far as Ric Flair was entertaining. I watched a clip and it was Ric Flair in the WWF, and maybe it was when he won the Battle Royal or something, but there's a bunch of people in the ring and someone popped him in the jaw, and then he did the stumble and took that face first bump, which is good when you see it once, right? That's kind of the problem that we run into now is we see the same spots over and over again. Remember the first time you saw the Canadian Destroyer? It was freaking awesome, right? Now it's everybody does it and then people kick out. So,
yeah.
I think and I just realized that it's like one of Adam Cole's finishers, right? The Panama City Sunrise or something like that.
Yes.
But he jumps off the rope and then hits it. But it's like the first time you see it, it's great. After that, it loses its value, and that was Ric Flair's face bump, or the Ric Flair pushing the referee and the referee knocking him down. Once is good, but when you see that that's the regular spot, come on, then it loses value. So, I don't know how we got on the Ric Flair, but yeah, Charlotte is definitely piggybacking, and I don't blame her there. I think she's very athletic. I think she has a little bit of that flair, cockiness, and she definitely whoever helped her in the training and helped her do some of the Ric Flair mannerisms, they did that great. Like she is what David Flair should have been, but he doesn't have the skill set, or the charisma that she's got.
No, definitely not. And see, the things with Rick, and I don't think Charlotte's ever really elevated anyone by feuding with them, though. And if that's her fault or that's the booking fault, I don't know. But how many people did Ric Flair elevate that we're still talking about today? Him and Sting.
Yeah,
Him and Sting,
Ricky Morton.
Lex Luger had the best singles matches of his career with Ric Flair.
That part is absolutely true, and I mean, and Ricky Morton too. Ricky Morton, even though one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time, however, when he got into that with Ric Flair, he held his own.
Oh yeah,
and there's talk that he actually wanted whatever, but Ric Flair and being in that feud with Ric Flair elevated Ricky Morton, even though Ricky Morton was already right up there, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Do you see the clip of them from WrestleCon over the weekend doing the collar and elbow tie up and walking around? Oh, well, look it up. They were jokingly, playing around, and I thought Rick was going to drop over.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's funny because they're messing around back and forth doing the collar and elbow tie up and stuff and walking back and forth with it and stuff. And all I can think of is going back to CWF Fan Fest when I asked Ricky and Robert were there, and I was talking with them and Jeff and Barry, and I said, hey, how much would it cost for you guys to hit a double drop kick on Barry Rose right now? And Ricky laughed. And he goes, we probably get up to his knees anymore, but yeah. So going back to Ronda and Charlotte, getting off on the Ric Flair tangent, what I saw the match in between dozing off, I don't feel they really click together, and sometimes it just happens like that, Maybe it's just
man, I don't get it when I see like people on the main stage that are off, because man, they have weeks, months to prepare for this, and to be in the ring and to work out a little bit. And it was like, I just think, if you could get them a couple of full days, maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, and let them get used to each other's spots, and have someone critiquing and video and showing, oh, look, I mean, come on, it's the WWE, I mean, it's the big time. It doesn't get any bigger. You can video it and say, hey, look, this is what you look like. This is, see how you're slouched over, or look, see how you waited too long to do it. You've got to be there to catch her, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can give so much feedback. I mean, even if it's just a person recording on their phone and giving them that feedback. So I don't think that they should be off. But I'll also say I think that WWE has dropped the ball on Ronda big time, because she could have came in and been sort of what Shayna Baszler was before they took her legs out from underneath her. And I understand they're trying to give that back to her now.
Yeah, but I mean, is it too little, too late? I mean, she disappeared after WrestleMania a couple of years ago and then never came back, and everything like that just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I think that might have hurt her in the long run to begin with. But she lost the title match in that 3-way and never came back. It's like, oh, she's back. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, there are people excited about it, and rightfully so. But again, at the expense of people who've been there busting their ass. And here's the thing: you have Ronda and Charlotte, who up until I think about a week or so ago were supposed to headline the first night of WrestleMania. If they had that match and that would have been the main event in night one, people would have been shitting all over it.
Yeah.
That was the main event, because as I said, I kind of, it's like, whatever, dude. I would have been very disappointed if that was the main event, because it didn't have that, big match, like finale. It just kind of ended kind of flat. And whoever was producing the match, because they have like these former wrestlers producing, I forget who it was, but you have all these guys that can sit there and watch them run through the moves and say, okay, this is what's going to work. This doesn't, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I wonder, and obviously I think they made the right call to went on last night, but we're going to get to that next. But if that had ended the show, people would be like, screw you, this sucked.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
If you ended on a down note, people aren't going to want to tune in the next night.
Mm-hmm.
People, this is where you're supposed to foster and make people feel good about what they invested in.
So tell me, let's go ahead and get to that main event. How did the Stone Cold and Kevin Owens match even come to exist?
So Kevin Owens, who I have followed for a long time, back when it was Kevin Steen and Ring of Honor, has always been a tremendous worker. I don't care what Jim Cornette says, and people can quote me on this. He's always been a phenomenal worker, great personality, and I've met him. He's a tremendous dude.
So Cornette says he's not a good worker?
Cornette looked at him as a fat, untalented guy with an attitude.
Yeah.
Which, obviously I've heard stories that connect to that. But, I don't have to agree with everything Jim Cornette says. Cornette said he was kind of hard to work with, but you know what? Cornette should be proud of the Kevin Owens character in WWE.
Yeah.
Because he can talk, he can work. His promos are some of the most compelling out of anybody in that promotion. So it started because every week Kevin Owens would come out and he would start talking shit on the state of Texas. I don't know how you could talk shit on a place that's got Whataburgers all over the place, but and Buc-ee's. I mean, come on, Buc-ee's is fucking awesome.
What's Buc-ee's? I've never heard of it.
Wait, you live in Florida and you've not been to the Buc-ee's?
No.
Bro, oh my God. Buc-ee's is like a convenience store on steroids. It has got one of the best beef brisket sandwiches I've ever had, ever, barbecue brisket. Anybody who's ever been to a Buc-ee's can tell you. And it's there's merchandise there. There's everything you could think of in this place. And it's huge. It's like a giant gas station.
Oh, so it's like Buck, B-U-C-E-E.
B-U-C, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we bought a bunch of merch and stuff from there, and they have sauce rubs and everything like that. But yeah, and it's pretty damn amazing. There's one in Florida, and I'm trying to remember. It's further down. So I was gonna make a side trip at FanFest but it wasn't really on the way around Tampa. I think it's further down or further over. But anyways, so that's neither here nor there. But I'm sure people who listen to this will tell you how great Buc-ee's is. Mac and I freaking loved it. Mac and I said we were going to if we were able to make it down to Tampa in June, we were going to take a side trip, just go to Buc-ee's. We were going to load up a car full of people and just go to Buc-ee's. But anyways, so Kevin Owens was talking mad shit about the state of Texas. And he's like, when he goes, I can't believe I'm going to wrestle in WrestleMania in Texas. The state sucks. Kind of random in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden he draws the ire of Stone Cold. I think he name dropped Steve Austin.
Mm.
And then Steve Austin reacted and said, you know what? He goes, Kevin was like, you know what? He goes, I dare the greatest Texan, and he talked shit on all the Texas wrestlers. I think he mentioned HBK, he mentioned Booker T. I think he might have mentioned The Undertaker. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes, you know what? He goes, I challenge Steve Austin to come on my show at WrestleMania. So, of course, you get the epic Steve Austin promo response where he's like, you want to talk shit? He goes, fine. He goes, I think I got one more left in me. I think I got one more ass kicking left in me. Kevin Owens, I'll see you at WrestleMania, dumb son of a bitch. And that's the bottom line. Because Stone Cold said so. And I'm sorry, I'm a Stone Cold mark. So this was exciting to me. And I'm like, okay, so he's going to come out. He's going to say a few words. He's going to drop Kevin Owens with a stunner. But that works, though. That would work because people are excited because it's been 19 years since Austin's last match.
Yeah.
And people are like, is it going to be a match? And you had read on the internet that it might have been a match, that Steve was up to training. Steve was training and trying to get himself up for something. So, but you're going to wait and see. Obviously, it would be his call because they're paying him a lot of money, but he's not going to do anything he don't want to do. So,
getting that WrestleMania payoff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one more WrestleMania payoff. I can only imagine what his dollar signs look like though to do this. So, and it's great because Kevin Owens comes out, sits down, he starts, talking shit and everything like that, and all of a sudden he's halfway through a sentence and the glass shatters, and here comes Steve Austin, and the crowd goes ballistic. He walks on one side of the stage, walks back, and he's got his T-shirt, his his jean shorts, and his 2 knee braces on. His wrists are taped up, and he looks ready for a fight. And that's the first indication we're about to see something cool. So he rides on his ATV down to the ring, gets in the ring, does the salute and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, he's definitely a little more PG. He's not giving everybody and their brother the finger. So he sits down and Kevin's like, you know what? He goes, I didn't invite you here to talk. He goes, I invited you for a fight. He goes, let's have a no-holds-barred match right here. And Austin's sitting there and kind of little facial twitches that Austin got while somebody was talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, you dumb son of a bitch. He goes, if 80,000 people here want to see me kick Kevin Owens' ass, give me a hell yeah. And he goes, I started my career in Dallas. He goes, I'm my first match here. He goes, I should have my last match here. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like a little kid. I'm not like a little kid. I'm like a teenager again, because the last time Steve Austin wrestled a match, I'll be 37 in July. I was 17 years old the last time he wrestled.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy, huh?
It would have been 2003. Yeah, it would have been 17 years old. Yeah, because it was before the infamous summer of 2003. So yeah, it would have been 2003. And it's crazy to think about it like that. I'm sitting there like, holy shit, it has been that long. I wasn't even old enough to legally do anything yet last time he wrestled his last match. So it's like, all right, ring the damn bells. So then they brawl. And I'm like, oh my God, this isn't going to last long. It actually went a lot longer than I thought. Austin, of course, Austin beating his ass around the ring and everything like that. Owens selling like $1 million and he's trying not to smile. To me, that was the best part. There were points where you could see him and he's laying there on the ground and he's like, this is so, the look on his face, like, this is so cool. Because this was the match that Kevin always said he wanted, apparently. Like in interviews, he's like, if I could wrestle somebody, it'd be Steve Austin. So here he is in front of 80,000 people in the main event of WrestleMania, getting his ass beat. And, Austin took a bump or two. There was a suplex on the concrete and the crowd looked kind of cringy. I'm like, oh my God, he might have killed him right there. And it was just cool, because there were moments of, reminding you of that old school WWF brawl where it'd be Austin taken fully into the audience or Austin brawling with the Undertaker or somebody. That's what it felt like. And it was like that magic was there again. And of course, they get back into the ring and Austin has a moment, gives Owens a stunner and pins him and drinks a whole ton of beer and everything like that. And then Byron Saxton got in there and took a Stone Cold Stunner.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. He pretty much hit all the greatest hits. And like I said, it was like that excitement again. It's like that nostalgia kicking in because, something you've never thought you'd see. Of him, celebrating at the end, drinking beer and, giving the middle finger salute to the audience at the end and everything like that. And walking through, it's like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of telling though that, in 19 years they haven't got a star that's like that, right? That's you have to create the stars. People were talking about The Undertaker and Scott Hall. So you see Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and WCW back before they went to the WWF, right? And it's like that was the difference. They could have stayed there in WCW and just been average Joes, but instead they went to the WWF, became stars, and then came back to WCW and made millions. So kudos to Vince McMahon for making the stars and saying, look, this Diamond Stud thing is stupid. This Vinny Vegas, Stunning Steve, be more who you are instead of trying to be a Ric Flair knockoff or a Buddy Landale knockoff or be who you are. And it worked, and I understand that it took a little convincing for them to let, Stone Cold be Stone Cold, but he was going to be Chili McFreeze or whatever.
Yeah.
but he did it. And then you look, there's been no one as over as Stone Cold.
Exactly. I mean, and after I came down off the high of that last night, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, that's a sad state of affairs because John Cena has come the closest of anybody. However, I do have to give props to Roman Reigns. However, the product that Roman's currently a part of, I don't think is beneficial for him to be, because there's not enough strong surrounding characters for him.
Agree 1,000%.
To be that, because he's great. Like, he is having the best time right now, and I think he's phenomenal. However, the fact that they don't know how to build new stars, I think, is what's hurting him. You have to keep going back to the Brock Lesnar feud. They're trying to build him and Brock to be the biggest feud since Austin and The Rock. I'm sorry, it's not.
No.
It's really not. It doesn't have the magic. Although I must say, I do enjoy Cowboy Brock Lesnar. I think that is tremendous. I think the fact that he is showing some personality, looks like he's having fun, and I think that's scarier. I think that is scarier than Monster Brock, because he's coming out in his flannel and his cowboy hat, having a good old time. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's throwing you over his head. It's like, holy shit, that's actually much scarier.
Right,
and
yeah.
He's smiling as he's giving you the F5 this time. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Well, it's kind of like what I used to say about haunted houses that we used to go to. It's that the haunted houses that where they lacked is they would say, get out, right? What it's more scarier is if they were the evil demons or that they're portraying, but they wanted you to stay.
Yeah.
Right. And to do the bad things to you. And so here's Brock Lesnar, who is happy that he's able to hurt you.
Exactly. And I mean, their match tonight, I feel, has the biggest feel for a match between them since their first one, which was, 7 years ago. What is this, 38? Yeah, it would have been 2014 or 2015. 7 years ago was their first main event at WrestleMania. And
wow.
That is still their best match, because that was the night that should have made Roman Reigns, because it came out. I remember Brock was the beast. Brock had just obliterated pretty much everybody, and here comes Roman. The match, it should have made Roman, and it was on its way to, because Roman took an ass beating, and then Roman finally started making the comeback. I think Brock went headfirst into the ring post, or something happened, and Roman started building that momentum, and just like, holy shit, you can get behind him, and then they completely tanked on. And I remember that because it was a great match, and that was the match that should have made Roman into the man, and they didn't. Now, here we are these years later, and the shoe's kind of on the other foot. Roman actually has become the man in the Fed. And, I've been kind of critical of the product, but I can't be critical of him because he's done tremendous.
Well, he got to be the heel that everybody always wanted him to be.
Exactly. I've been saying for years, to come out and acknowledge me, and that snide, the snide look, and Paul Heyman. And so I think that tonight is a very interesting dynamic, because hopefully this will be the last time we see this match, because, they haven't exactly been the barn burners. If you go back and watch them on the network, I think their first one is still the best out of all of them that they've had, and they've had quite a few over the years. But hopefully tonight's going to change my mind.
Well, cool, man. Thank you for coming to tell us about night one. Hopefully I can get you back on and hear about night two and get some final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, always a pleasure. You always have my number. Anytime you just want to shoot the shit and everything like that. I know Dr. Spiker would like to come back on at some point too, and we get like topics or something like that. There is something I would like to, they discussed it on Breaking Kayfabe about the top 10 most satisfying movie villain deaths. I think there's a few that were left off that list that I would like to, discuss. And of course, you want to have me back on for night two. We'll see how night two goes and everything like that. So.
Well, good, man. So we'll see if we get you back on and maybe do like we did with Matt Crowder and have, 3 kind of in a row. Matt by himself, then we did Matt with Travis, and then Matt with Chris Zaha. So
speaking of Matt, I also can't believe you guys talked about Springsteen, didn't even invite me and Mac on. So, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, that was 11:30 at night, and I had no idea that was even going to come up.
I mean, I could talk for hours. We could have like a marathon episode of just talking about Springsteen and his music and everything. So.
Well, cool, man. Give our regards. Jana's here with me over on the side here, but give our regards to Dr. Spiker. Hope she's doing well.
Of course. And hello to the Queen, and miss you guys, and hopefully we'll get to cross paths again here soon. I hope so.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and I'll see if I can message you some point tomorrow and see if I can get you on the next day or so, and get a good episode about night 2 at WrestleMania.
All right, bro. Sounds good.
Thanks, man. Take care. Thank you so much, Chris.
Always a pleasure, bud. Take care.
All right, bye.
Later.
So,
Well, awesome. Hey, we want to send some well wishes out to Joe Christie. We hear he's not doing well, but Joe, we're thinking about you if you're listening to this, and I know all the brothership is thinking about you, and we're just praying for a miracle at this point for you, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Hoping that you make it to Lutz, Florida, to be with everybody else, and my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. So hopefully, everything goes well, and it's tough, but you could pull through.
Well, Ariel, we will be back in a day or two with another exciting episode, maybe a couple of more of Broken Kayfabe. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Our downloads are up. We almost had 100 2 weeks in a row, up from the normal 50. So thank everyone for listening. I hope that it's all brother shippers, because if you're not a member of the brothership, you probably won't give a crap about the podcast anyway. But anyway, brother shippers, we appreciate your support, and let's just keep hoping for a miracle with Joe. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Ariel, for taking the time out of your week and your work day to talk to us.
Of course, no problem. Anytime. Well, anytime that I'm awake and or having the time to record. All right, everybody.
And not talking to your girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that too. Now she's a subscriber to the YouTube.
Yeah.
Page,
well, you were about to drop the ball. That was almost the first time you haven't mentioned her on the podcast.
I gotta stop doing it. I mean,
no, you don't.
No, I don't. Okay, yeah, she is the most wonderful girl. I forget she, might listen to this and stuff, but yeah, she's great. Love you.
love you too, man.
Okay.
We'll see you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.